Welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I feel like I need to bring you on as like a hype man for the Fibershed. So yeah, like she said, my name is Amber, and I am a board member of the Rustbelt Fibershed. Fibershed is based on the watershed model that many of you are familiar with. However, we're focused on textiles, and we are really interested in a circular soil-to-soil model, where the clothes, the bed sheets you sleep in, the towels you dry off in, the textiles that make the upholstery of your car, all of these things are sourced from the soil and are processed and spun and wove and sent to a designer, and all of this is local, so that when you buy it, you're supporting your local economy, and at the very end of its life cycle, it can be composted back into the soil, and it's going to keep that carbon down into the soil. And it's a really quite antique method, right? This is how things used to be before we had polyester, based products that most of our textiles are now. However, we know that we can do this at an economy of scale, and we can do this with innovation that is only going to better the future of our people and planet. So that is why we are working on a number of fronts, both from connecting farmers to suppliers to designers, all the way from the artisan scale up to commercial scale. So how many minutes do I have left?
I don't know. It's so fascinating. I just am listening.
I'm also here. I have 3 minutes left. Thank you, Jenny. I'm also here representing the Weavers Guild, and I will say that is an artisan scale, but we are is just as important a piece of the Fibershed, because we are educating the community, which is a huge, I would say, portion of the work that we do, just because we recognize that this is a cultural shift. This is huge, right? Like, you don't just change this thing in a night. You don't just because we can connect hemp growers or flax growers. That's one of our major projects right now, is the Rustbelt Linen Project, where we're trying to create an economy for flax here, and then connect them with hopefully a processing plant. That seems like it's coming online, right? And then we could potentially get a mills, so that we would have woven fabric, and then get it to designers like So Valley, so that we can create these goods and sell these goods here locally and really fulfill that circular soil-to-soil mission. So we need to educate people about it first, because we know that the public need to push, and they need to be the ones that say that this is what we want, before the big corporations and the economy will bend to our will. So I think that was 3 minutes, right? Great.
Close enough.
Saving you time. Thank you for having me here.
Oh my gosh. So our next panelist, Ashley Kubley, Associate Professor of Fashion Design, Associate Director at the Marion E. Ullman Junior School of Design, Head of the Evelyn G. Burgoyne Textiles Innovation Laboratory. Oh my gosh, she's an educator, designer, researcher, craftsperson. This list goes on and on. This matters because preparing students for rewarding careers while influencing aesthetics, trends, and functional products in everyday life. It is so important. Think about going and starting your educational career with hearing, oh, well, textiles are the second largest pollutant in the world. Right? How do you feel about that? It's like, how do you bring them and encourage them every day?
Where do I even start? This is so difficult, because I have such a long history and such a deep love for sustainability and all things related to how the fashion industry and the textiles industry can be a mechanism to make our world a better place, and to address those issues that we have with production, manufacturing, ethics, materiality, all those things. So I guess in a nutshell, I'll start back at the beginning. When I was After I graduated from college, I started a sustainable fashion design company about 15 years ago, and it was I was a very early adopter in the sustainability and fashion space, and that company was really focused on trying to connect small batch manufacturing and all the different aspects, let's call it shades of green, all the different potential impacts that people could have through the production process, whether it was natural dyeing on a larger scale, or whether it was sourcing different kinds of fibers from different, local growers, producing those fabrics, and also producing those clothing out of those fabrics and trying to get that out to the community that maybe wasn't quite ready for sustainability just yet. So early in my career, as a young professional, I started doing that, and that happened subsequently after I worked in the fashion industry for a large denim manufacturer that was producing tons and tons of denim that was being manufactured knowing that it was never going to be sold or consumed, and all of those materials were going to landfill. So all these things kind of contributed to the reasons why I wanted to get interested in sustainability. But nowadays, as an educator, my research focus is really in fibers, and I would say textile technology on a grand scale. So anything from an ancient fiber in a field to a finished fabric that's forward-looking. Textile technology in general can be anything from, an innovation that happened in an ancient process that allowed a group of people to be able to produce something better, or in a different way, or in a more ethical way, or in a more sustainable way. But also, I'm interested in the interventions that we can have in the space of technology now, where we can think of new kinds of biomaterials, things that can rapidly decompose. All different kinds of technologies that are starting to innovate the way that we defiber different kinds of materials. So, one more kind of caveat to this is that my main area of research over the past couple of years has been working with indigenous Mayan communities in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. I've been going there for over 20 years and working with these communities that work with two kinds of fiber that grows endemically in that region. One of those fibers is called henequen. It's sisal. You guys are probably familiar with it. The other one is lengua de vaca, or sansevieria, which is snake plant. It's just a regular common house plant. Both of them are fiber-producing plants. They grow endemically in that area. And Mayan people have been using and processing these fibers by hand since pre-Hispanic times. And so I'm really interested in that process. And what I'm seeing now is that in that region, not to give you guys a history lesson, but in that region, maybe 100 years ago, those kinds of processes were co-opted during colonization, maybe 200 years ago. And this process was industrialized. Well, with the onset of nylon and different kinds of inventions of synthetic materials, those materials at one time, which were basically dominating the landscape of textile for ropes and bags and things like that, basically came to a complete standstill. And so all of that industry kind of went away for 100 years. Now we're seeing this really important resurgence of artisan production in that region, where people are starting to come back to that, and consumers are more interested in finding opportunities to see artisanally produced handcrafts and also different kinds of processing materials. So we work with these communities to make sure that they can equitably work with designers who are approaching them that want to do collaborations, and also that the artisans are educated on how, designing for a larger scale works. And so I'm sort of that facilitator in these projects. And then I also go out in the field and I look at the things that they're making, how they're doing it, observe their processes, and help them think about ways that they can access a market and take agency over that conversation without having to have an intermediary in the conversation. So when I was very young, I was more of a seeker. I wanted to learn everything about textiles. I wanted to learn everything about fibers and materials. But now I see myself as an educator. And so what I want to do is I not only want to educate these communities that I work with, but I also want to educate my own students. And I see a lot of my students here tonight. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate you coming and supporting this. It's really important and it's fascinating to know about how all of these things work behind the scenes, and just to understand when you touch your clothing that you understand the process by which it has come to be a garment. And then as a design educator, it's really important for me to encourage my students to think about not only what are they making to produce, but are they thinking about the life cycle of that thing that they're designing from the start. When they design it, are they thinking about how it's going to be broken down? Are they thinking about how it's going to be disassembled at the end of its life? And so I'd like to just encourage everyone here to think about all those different parts of the process that go into, and all the hands that have to touch that material. It's easy to go buy a fabric at a store, but when you think about those ancient techniques and you think about the painstaking process and all the steps that the garment had to go through to become a garment in history, it really puts things in perspective. So that's it. That's me in a nutshell. So I can answer all the questions.